I wasn't supposed to fall for her. At 42, I'd already lived 2 lives. One as a husband, now divorced, and another as a successful entrepreneur who built a tech company from the ground up and sold it for more than I could spend in 2 lifetimes. I turned to consulting after the sale, mentoring promising young founders. It gave me purpose until it gave me her. Her name was Elena, 27, sharp as broken glass and twice as dangerous, though I didn't know it then. She came to me with a pitch deck held together with a binder clip, and eyes that looked like they'd never blinked once during a negotiation. I laughed when I saw the mess of her numbers, but I couldn't stop reading. There was fire in her. She reminded me of myself at that age, arrogant, raw, and hungry. "I don't need a partner," she said after I offered to help clean up her model. "I just need someone smart enough not to slow me down." I should have walked away. Instead, I said, "Let's make a monster out of this thing." We worked late for weeks. Days blurred into nights. I watched her tear through competitors, charm investors, and sharpen her pitch until it could slice glass. Somewhere between her first big funding round and the first time she crashed on my couch after a 20-hour sprint, it happened. I fell hard. She never needed me the way I needed her, not emotionally, but she understood the game, and I told myself she respected me. That was enough. Until it wasn't. 3 years later, we had a company valued at $130 million, and my name was still on the paperwork, but the face everyone wanted on the magazine covers was hers. She was the star, the innovator, the genius. I was the mentor, and then she started pulling away. Fewer emails, fewer meetings, more private strategy calls. I wasn't looped into. I thought she was just growing confident, independent, but it was more than that. It was calculated. The unraveling began when I received an anonymous tip, a burner email with no signature, just a screenshot, a Slack conversation I wasn't supposed to see. Her and our top investor, Graham, the VC who wrote the biggest check in our Series B. Elena, he thinks I still need him. Cute, right? Graham, once you got the boar on your side, just push him out. He'll fold. I stared at that message for 20 straight minutes. She had been planning this, grooming me, using me. I didn't react. Not right away. Instead, I let her believe I was still the mentor, the fool. I played my part, nodding along in meetings, letting her take the spotlight, feeding her the strategies that kept us rising. But inside, I was rebuilding my war chest. She forgot who I was, the man who once broke an entire market by outmaneuvering companies 10 times our size. She thought I was soft, maybe because I let her shine. But this was never her company. She was just borrowing it. And now I was going to take everything back. Piece by piece. Started with the one thing she never understood. You don't win by being the smartest. You win by knowing exactly when to strike. The plan started working like clockwork. After the exhibition, where Sandra publicly humiliated herself, the phone calls started pouring in. The reputation of the agency she had invested in tanked. Investors turned their backs on her and started demanding their money back. I didn't just want to destroy her business. I wanted her to realize that she had ruined her own life just like she had ruined mine. I used every connection I had gained in my new life, the kind I never had when I was just Sandra's husband. I was a different person now, and with each passing week, I was growing stronger. A couple of weeks after the exhibition crashed and burned, I got a tip. Sandra had put her apartment up for sale, the very one we used to live in together. There was something ironic about the fact that now she needed money, and I could afford to buy that place back. And I did, just not directly. Through a proxy. I even did some light renovations, but I left a few details untouched. The old kitchen shelves, the scratched mirror in the hallway, that painting in the bedroom she loved so much and had promised to take first. I knew she'd figure out who owned it now. Let her live with that. But I didn't stop there. Remember Evan? The same friend who slept with my wife? He was still working in finance. On the surface, life seemed good for him. Yachts, clubs, expensive suits. But in one of his funds, I had quietly become a shareholder through a shell company. A small percentage, just enough to start digging into his deals. 2 months later, I leaked evidence to a journalist who had long been hunting for financial fraud in the investment sector. A week later, the headlines blew up. Financial Pyramid, how one of LA's top brokers scammed his investors. Evan got fired. His assets were frozen. Irony? The last thing he ever said to me, back in that bar, was, "It's just business, buddy." I sent that same message back to him, in a short and signed text. But the real climax was still ahead. I organized a small presentation for a new charity initiative I'd launched with a major foundation. Press, local politicians, and business leaders attended. Among the invitees, Sandra. I knew she wouldn't decline. Too big of an event, too many big names. She was still trying to save face. Still wanted to be seen as a player. When she walked in and saw who was behind it all, her face went pale. She didn't know what to do. Leaving would mean admitting defeat. Staying meant facing me. I walked up to her myself. "I'm glad you came," I said with a cold smile. She wanted to say something, but couldn't. I continued, "We all change. You made me who I am. And for that, I'm grateful." Then I left her standing there in the middle of the room, under the silent gazes of the other guests. She was no longer the center of attention. She was just a shadow. After that evening, she vanished from the public eye. Some said she moved out of the city. Others, that she ended up working for a cheap PR agency. I didn't follow up. What I'd done was enough for me. I had taken back control, taken back myself, my life, and most importantly, I had taken back my self-respect. But there's one last chapter to this story, an ending she definitely didn't see coming. By the time I had laid the groundwork for my new life as Nathan Kane, I was no longer driven by just rage. I was powered by precision. I had money. I had connections. And most importantly, I had patience. I spent weeks watching them, Michelle and Brandon, from a distance. They were easy to find. They'd moved into a full modern home in an up-and-coming neighborhood. It was painfully obvious they were over-leveraged. New house, new car, private school for her son. She always wanted a family. I guess Brandon was faster at knocking her up than I was. I smiled when I saw them walking out of couples therapy one Tuesday afternoon. Trouble already? Good. I wasn't just going to make them suffer. I was going to unravel them from the inside out. The first phase started innocently. I created a fake startup called Vanacore Holdings, posing as a boutique investment firm. It had a polished website, fake portfolios, and glowing reviews from equally fake clients. I used a frontman, an out-of-work actor named Liam, to play the charismatic founder. Then I used LinkedIn. Brandon was easy to bait. His page reeked of desperation masked as ambition. Former high school jock turned finance bro, now riding the highs of his dream life. He posted quotes like, "Hustle in silence. Let success make the noise." Idiot. Liam reached out with a message. "Hey Brandon, love your work. We're hiring new talent for a series of greenfield projects. Huge upside potential. Let's grab coffee this week." Brandon bit. Within 2 meetings, we had him sold. Vanacore offered him a strategic investment partnership, plus quarterly performance bonuses. All he had to do was help us with certain acquisitions. Small things at first. Data analysis. Industry forecasts. He felt important. He had no idea he was signing off on his own destruction. At the same time, I turned my attention to Michelle. That was the harder part. She used to love deep conversations. Books, jazz, politics. But now, her Instagram told me everything. Mirror selfies with designer bags. Brunches with other fake tan wives of finance. Photos of their baby boy with obnoxious hashtags like #LittlePrince and #BlessMama. She looked happy, but she wasn't glowing, not like she used to. Her eyes were tired. The real Michelle was somewhere beneath the surface, buried under cheap diamonds and curated smiles. So I planted a seed. I used an anonymous account to send her a message. "Heard your man's been playing with fire at work. Maybe check where the money's really coming from." She blocked the account within minutes, but not before I saw the notification. Message seen. That was all I needed. Meanwhile, Brandon was growing bold, arrogant. We fed him fake insider tips, market trends, acquisition rumors, and encouraged him to use them to prove his value. He started front-running trades, leaking embargoed documents, and laundering personal money through fake shell entities we helped him set up. I recorded everything. Emails, phone calls, WhatsApp voice notes. I had enough to bury him in court for a decade, but that was just the appetizer. The real course was emotional, personal. I hired a woman named Tessa, brilliant, funny, and armed with a tragic backstory. She was tasked with seducing Brandon slowly, methodically, and with maximum cruelty. He fell hard. Within 6 weeks, they were sneaking off to boutique hotels on business trips. Michelle didn't know yet, but I was saving that for later. And just when Brandon thought things couldn't get any better, we gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. Liam told him there was a huge crypto-backed hedge fund looking to invest in Vanacore, and Brandon could be brought on as senior vice president. A corner office, $400,000 base salary, equity options, travel perks. All he had to do was put up a small personal investment to prove skin in the game. He wired $75,000 into the fake escrow account we created. Within 3 days, Vanacore Holdings vanished from the internet. Liam disappeared. Brandon started panicking. And I sent Michelle an untraceable envelope filled with hotel photos, call logs, and a note that simply said, "He replaced you too." Later that week, Michelle showed up at Brandon's office, screaming, crying, slapping, her mascara ruined, her voice hoarse. She demanded to know who Tessa was. Brandon had no answers. He couldn't explain anything. His eyes were hollow. His job was gone. His money was gone. His reputation was already beginning to rot. But I wasn't done. That weekend, I leaked everything. His insider trading activity, the stolen funds, even his explicit messages to Tessa, to his firm's compliance department and the financial crime unit. They opened an investigation by Monday. And as Brandon's world collapsed like a house of cards soaked in gasoline, I sent Michelle one final message. This time, it wasn't anonymous. It was from my real name, a simple photo. Me, smiling on a yacht, holding her favorite book, with the caption, "You chose this." Brandon's life didn't just fall apart. It imploded. The investigation moved faster than I expected. One of his colleagues, eager for a promotion, handed over chat logs and forwarded emails that Brandon hadn't even tried to scrub. The Financial Crimes Division froze his accounts within days. The house Michelle once proudly showed off in her Instagram reels? Under foreclosure review. Brandon tried to fight it. He begged. He lied. He blamed bad information and setups and even tried playing the victim card. But the system didn't care. He was just another greedy idiot who thought he was invincible. Meanwhile, Michelle, she was unraveling in real time. The photos I sent her of Brandon and Tessa weren't just scandalous. They were surgical. Tessa was always just a little more glamorous than Michelle, just a bit more toned, a touch more seductive in every photo. But it was the final image that broke her. Brandon holding Tessa's hand in a baby store. Michelle's greatest fear had always been being replaced, forgotten, and I made sure she felt every excruciating second of it. I didn't stop there. I reached out to one of Michelle's closest friends from college, Emma. We'd never been close, but I remembered something. Emma had once confessed she had a massive crush on me. I never acted on it back then, but now she was perfect for what came next. I took her to dinner. I charmed her. And when she asked me what really happened between Michelle and me, why we got divorced, I let my voice tremble a little as I said, "She cheated with my best friend. They destroyed me. I didn't need to lie. The truth was enough." And Emma, she told me she had always hated Brandon, always knew he was a snake. Now, she was more than happy to help. I gave her a script. A few days later, Emma invited Michelle to brunch. What Michelle didn't know was that I had Emma wear a wire. For nearly 2 hours, Michelle ranted, cried, confessed everything. How she regretted ever leaving me. How Brandon changed. How she was trapped with a baby and a man who no longer cared. How she wished she could go back to the life she threw away. At one point, she said, Sometimes I wonder if I chose the wrong man, if maybe David was the only one who ever really loved me. That recording was priceless. I wasn't planning to use it yet, but knowing I had it, it gave me power. One night, I returned to the city where it all began. I parked across the street from the tiny coffee shop where Michelle and I first met. It hadn't changed. Same crooked sign, same chalkboard menu. I ordered the same drink I used to, a black coffee with a single sugar. As I sipped it, I thought about who I used to be, the man who believed in love, loyalty, marriage. He was dead now. In his place stood someone else. Someone colder, sharper, more dangerous. And still, somewhere deep down, part of me ached. Because no matter how much I destroyed them, no matter how meticulously I orchestrated every consequence, I couldn't undo the original betrayal. That wound would always be there, a scar beneath the surface. But scars, I reminded myself, are signs that we survived. A week later, Michelle reached out. She sent a message to an old email I hadn't used in years. One I kept just in case. David, I don't know if this is still your email. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but please, I don't know who else to talk to. Everything's falling apart. Brandon cheated on me. We're broke. He might go to prison. I think I'm losing my mind. I made a huge mistake. I miss who we were. I miss you. Please, just talk to me. I stared at the message for a long time, and then, slowly I typed, "We don't exist anymore. Michelle, you destroyed us. Now you live in the world you chose." Then I hovered over the send button, paused, and deleted the entire draft. No, she didn't deserve closure. But I wasn't finished yet. I had one final move, one last checkmate. I waited until Brandon's name hit the news. Local broker indicted an insider trading scheme. I knew the media would jump on it. They always loved a good fall from grace story. I timed the release of everything else perfectly. I sent the Emma recording to a local gossip site anonymously. I leaked Brandon's text with Tessa to a parroting forum Michelle followed. I sent Michelle's own messages, screenshots of her cheating years ago, to a religious Facebook group she joined after trying to reclaim her dignity. They called her a hypocrite, a liar, a fraud. The internet turned against her. Even her family, conservative, judgmental, and cruel, cut her off. 2 months later, I got a letter, handwritten, no return address. It was from Michelle. "David, you win. Is that what you wanted? You destroyed me. He's in jail. I'm alone. People hate me. I don't sleep. I don't eat. Every day feels like I'm drowning in something I can't escape. But maybe that's what I deserve. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away. I was stupid, selfish, and now I'm paying for it. You don't have to respond. I know you won't. I needed you to know. I'm sorry." I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, and never touched it again. 6 months had passed since Brandon was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Michelle had quietly moved into a dingy 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. No more Instagram reels, no brunch selfies, no luxury handbags, just radio silence. Her life had become as empty as the promises she once whispered to me at night. She tried to get work again in marketing, but her reputation was already scorched. Every interview ended with polite rejection. No one wanted to touch the woman whose husband was a disgraced felon, whose private drama had become public fodder. I knew all of this because I had someone watching, not in a stalkerish way, just enough. I needed to see her fall, needed to know it wasn't just headlines and rumors. I needed confirmation that justice wasn't just poetic, but visible. And it was. Michelle was working part-time at a dry cleaner now. The same woman who once laughed at my boring ambitions, now steaming collars for $12 an hour. The irony? Brandon was now exactly where he belonged, behind bars. And me? I was free. One afternoon, I visited my father's grave. He passed away before everything happened. Before the betrayal, before the revenge, before the fire I carried around in my chest for years. I stood in front of the old, weather-worn tombstone and whispered, "I did it, Dad." I let them burn. But even in victory, I felt hollow, like I'd poured so much of myself into their destruction that I'd forgotten what I was supposed to do afterward. I'd won, but at what cost? I started rebuilding, moved to a new city, started a consulting firm under a different name. The scars were still there, of course. Some mornings I'd wake up, reaching for a woman who wasn't there and never should have been. But healing? It came in pieces. I met someone new. Her name was Natalie. She wasn't flashy. She didn't care about money or status or Instagram filters. She loved books, dogs, silence. She reminded me of the man I used to be, the man before Michelle. And slowly, I started becoming him again. Not entirely. Some parts were lost forever, but enough to feel human. One day, about a year later, I got a message, not from Michelle, from Tessa. Hey, I know who you are. I figured it out. I stared at the screen. She followed up seconds later. Honestly, I respect it. What you did to Brandon. He deserved all of it. Just so, I never loved him. I was using him too. We all play the game. You just played it better. Take care, David. Really, I never responded because I'd already closed the book. Years passed. Michelle faded into obscurity. No one remembered her anymore. No one cared. Her face, once radiant and smug, now just another anonymous blur in a world that had moved on. But I remember, not with anger, not with longing, just clarity. Because some betrayals don't just hurt you, they reshape you. They force you to burn down the version of yourself that trusted too easily and rise from the ashes as someone sharper, stronger, someone who doesn't just survive, but thrives.